Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. And you know what's really odd? In all of these years with the debate about is rideshare ethical? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it exploitative? Is it a blessing from God himself? Very few people have actually put legislation for rideshare on the ballots, but apparently Honolulu is going to change that as they have put a ballot on the election to cap surge. According to the Star Tribune, Honolulu leaders planned to vote Wednesday on a measure limiting prices that ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft can charge during peak demand, a cap that the companies say would be the first restrictions of its kind in the United States. The measure would prevent, quote, surge pricing if increased rates are higher than the maximum fare set by the city. Uber sent emails to customers across the island of Oahu, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is where the rule would apply, urging them to oppose the rules that would impose, quote, outdated taxi-style requirements on rideshare. Oahu taxi drivers have been at odds with those who drive for mobile apps that connect riders with nearby drivers. Taxi companies complain that companies such as Uber and Lyft create an unfair playing field because they face fewer restrictions. David Young, owner of EcoCab Hawaii, wrote in testimony supporting the measure that it's wrong to allow companies to set prices without city control. Robert DeLuz, owner of Robert's Taxi, said Uber and Lyft use surge pricing during pickups for military members coming off the USS Theodore Roosevelt and the USS Bonhomme Richard. I think that's how you say that. And the Honolulu Star Advertiser reported last month. Military members paid as much as $221 to get from Pearl Harbor to Waikiki, he said, while the maximum taximeter rate was $44 or less. In a fact sheet, Uber said surge pricing gives drivers the incentive to work in busier areas, which lowers wait times for riders and ensure reliability. Riders and drivers who submitted testimony opposing the measure said taxis aren't as reliable or affordable as ride-hailing companies. Uber driver Lisa Gonzalez wrote that she drives to help support her family of 6. During surge pricing, passengers have the option to reject or accept the costs. Quote, there is a need for more drivers in one area causing the price to increase during a certain time, or they can wait for the price to decrease when the need for drivers lessens, she wrote. It is based on supply and demand, mostly what the consumer wants to pay. Uber and Lyft officials testified in City Council committees last month that the cap on surge price would be the first such restriction on the companies in the country, the Honolulu newspapers reported. Tabitha Chow, Uber's senior operations manager in Hawaii, would likely be testifying Wednesday, a spokesperson said in an email. Quote, when demand for rides is greater than the number of drivers on the road, passengers may pay an extra percentage on top of the base ride amount, Lyft said in a statement explaining its prime time pricing. Boy, the plumbing is really bad in this house sometimes. A $6 ride would become a $9 ride during the primetime pricing of 50%, the statement said, adding that, quote, it only adds a percentage to the ride subtotal, which is calculated before any other fees or additional amounts. Council Chairman Ernie Martin said he wrote the measure to ensure customers won't pay an, quote, unreasonable price. He said companies will still be able to employ surge pricing, or as he prefers to call it, predatory pricing within limits. If council city members approve the measure, city attorneys will review it before it goes to the mayor. Mayor Kirk Caldwell would have 10 days to sign into law, allowed to become law without his signature or to veto it. So this is going to become potentially a very real thing. And my opinion, of course, is that this is not how you legislate rideshare. This really is not. Because especially since the drivers can get on and off whenever they want, in terms of going online or offline, the surge pricing does ensure that they go to the busier areas. It ensures that people will work during hours they wouldn't normally work. It is a necessary evil. And once you take it away, guess what? You're going to see it be very, very difficult to get a ride at 2 in the morning when the bars close. Now, I understand why, of course, the council and the congressmen and women would want to pass this legislation. They've probably been burned by a bad Uber and Lyft ride once or twice in their life because we've all done it. But the thing is, with the upfront pricing, it is a lot easier to avoid those kind of fares. And usually you don't even have to wait very long to get a cheaper fare. In fact, most of the time, if you see that a fare is like more than $100, wait 15 minutes or so, you'll pay a lot less. It's actually not hard to avoid it. And I know a few Uber and Lyft drivers will definitely fight against this bill and against this proposition, but Uber and Lyft might have had more people fighting against it if they didn't start screwing with the new surge and the new prime time, because if this kind of legislation finds its way to other states, I don't think you're going to have the Uber and Lyft drivers on your side, because they remember when they used to get a lot more of that money, and they're not going to be getting it. So what on earth are they fighting for? It's just the way it is. I don't even know if I would necessarily object to it, even though I do object to it, because what am I getting out of it? I know that Uber and Lyft are planning to take my surge away as soon as they possibly can to pocket their pocketbooks. Now, what is interesting is that when the taxis say we cap out at $44, this is one of those reasons why there's only, here's the thing, public transport, like taxis, Uber, stuff, these are not public utilities. You don't need them in your life. They're nice to have, you don't need them. The government shouldn't be telling you how much or how little you can charge unless it pertains to how much the drivers get paid. They should at least charge enough to pay the drivers a little bit more than minimum wage, in my opinion. But in terms of other things, I don't think they should be having this kind of control. I don't like it when they have this sort of control. And it begs the question, well, if you're going to limit, ride share so that you don't get screwed, why don't you limit like housing prices or rent or gas? Something that actually affects people every day, and unfortunately people need those things, so it's not like they can live without it. And yet we're talking about capping surge on Uber. It seems like a total waste of time, in my opinion. But, oh well, that's what Hawaii wants to do, so it's going to be Thursday by the time this story goes up. I acknowledge that, so we will probably have an update really soon on what this is, but I wanted to record this now and let you know what was going on. But what do you folks think? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Would you vote for a law that would cap surge, or would you vote against a law that would cap surge? And in fact, what do you think about capping surge, especially if you live in an area where the new surge essentially has capped your surge anyway, and Uber is manipulating the whole thing, so you're not even sure if you're getting what you should be getting? I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month helps keep the channel running smoothly. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.